The distant stars flickered, speckling the vast black canvas of space, as Commander Jaxon Hale stood silent aboard the command deck of the Vanguard. His gaze, usually sharp and commanding, today reflected the cold void outside, full of unknowns, yet eerily tranquil. Around him, the subtle sounds of the ship's heartbeats resonated through the floor, soft thuds and mechanical whispers that told tales of cosmic voyages and battles fought in the void's embrace. His crew moved with practiced efficiency, a quiet ballet of swift steps and silent gestures, ensuring their leader's contemplation remained undisturbed. Jackson's mind, however, was far from quiet. The weight of impending decisions pressed on him like the gravity of a neutron star, invisible yet immensely powerful. "Commander," a gentle voice cut through the quiet. Lieutenant Harrow stepped forward, his presence commanding yet restrained, reflecting his role as Jackson's confidant and second-in-command. "We've intercepted a transmission. It's unusual." Jaxon turned, his eyes narrowing slightly. "Source?" "Unknown, sir. It's patchy but urgent. Should I bring it up?" "On main, Lieutenant." The wall before them flickered to life, revealing the scrambled data and audio fragments of a distress call. The voice was distorted, laced with static and urgency, painting a stark contrast to the tranquility of space outside their vessel. "This is a plea for assistance," the voice crackled, barely masking the underlying panic. "Coordinates follow. We are under attack. Immediate help required." The transmission ended as abruptly as it had begun, leaving a heavy silence hanging in the air. Jackson's jaw clenched momentarily as he processed the plea. His ship, a spearhead in the uncharted territories, wasn't just a vessel of war but also one of salvation, navigating through both stellar storms and diplomatic tempests. "Prepare to trace the coordinates and alert the crew. We might have a mission," Jaxon commanded, his voice a firm yet calm force, mirroring the deep currents of an ocean, powerful but controlled. As Harrow relayed the orders, Jackson's thoughts drifted to the plea. The voice spoke of desperation, of an imminent threat that lurked beyond the starlit peace of their current view. It was a reminder of the chaos that lay in wait, ready to disrupt the fragile order they had imposed on this slice of the galaxy. He approached the main deck's window, a vast pane of reinforced crystal that offered an unobstructed view of the cosmos. His reflection stared back at him, a ghostly image superimposed against the infinity of space. It was a stark reminder of the solitude that command often entailed. "We're heading into a storm, aren't we, sir?" Harrow's voice was soft but carried an edge of certainty. Jaxon nodded, his eyes not leaving the stars. "Yes, Lieutenant, into the storm where we may well find our purpose." As the coordinates locked in and the Vanguard began its silent surge through space, Jaxon felt the familiar thrill of the unknown course through him. Whatever awaited them at those coordinates, he and his crew would face it head-on. For in the vast, echoing silence of the cosmos, it was not just survival that called them forward, but the unyielding desire to answer the cries of those in need, a mission that defined not only his career, but his very soul. As the Vanguard surged silently through the cosmos, Commander Jaxon Hale stood transfixed by the star-studded abyss. The darkness enveloped the ship, a stark reminder of the void they ventured to conquer. The distant glow of celestial bodies cast a soft luminescence over his rugged features, his eyes reflecting a mosaic of faint starlight. Lieutenant Harrow returned to Jackson's side, his steps barely audible against the soft murmur of the crew's movements. "Coordinates locked, Commander. We're on course," he reported, his voice a controlled whisper that carried the weight of urgency without tipping into alarm. Jaxon nodded, his focus shifting to the crew, bustling with quiet determination around the command deck. Each member was attuned to their tasks, their senses heightened by the anticipation of the unknown. The air was tinged with a crisp, metallic tang, the ship's life support systems working subtly in the background, recycling breath and spirit with equal necessity. "Prepare all hands for a potential conflict," Jaxon ordered, his tone decisive. "I want every sensor and shield at maximum readiness. We're not just walking into a rescue mission. We're stepping into a battlefield." The crew responded with a flurry of activity. The click of buttons and soft clatter of keyboards punctuated the otherwise muted atmosphere. Sensors flickered to life, casting a kaleidoscope of lights across the faces of the crew, painting them with hues of determination. From the corner of the deck, Specialist Drake monitored the communication arrays, his fingers dancing over the controls. He intercepted fragmented transmissions, the static-filled whispers of distant voices echoing through the speakers, painting a dire picture of the chaos unfolding at their destination. "Visuals coming through," called out Officer Klein from the navigation bay. The main screen flickered, then steadied to reveal the besieged world. Clouds swirled in tumultuous whirls, lit intermittently by the blaze of explosions on the surface. The sight was a visceral blow to the senses, the stark reality of war laid bare in vivid, unsettling detail. Jackson's nostrils flared as he inhaled sharply, the filtered air filling his lungs with a sterile chill. "Status on armaments?" he called out, his gaze never leaving the screen. "All systems armed and ready for engagement, sir," responded Sergeant Lutz, his voice a steady rumble over the backdrop of low discussions and electronic beeps. As the ship approached the embattled planet, a vibration ran through the deck plates, a subtle yet unmistakable sign of the Vanguard powering up its defense mechanisms. The taste of anticipation was palpable, mingling with the ever-present tang of metal and electricity that permeated the ship. Jackson turned to Harrow, his expression set in grim resolve. "Once we enter the orbit, deploy recon drones. I want eyes in every sector. We're not going in blind." "Understood, Commander," Harrow replied, his response quick and efficient, mirroring the urgency of their mission. The Vanguard edged closer, slipping into the planet's shadow. As they crossed the threshold between the known and the unknown, Jackson felt the weight of command heavier than ever. Yet, beneath that weight, a fierce resolve kindled within him, stoked by the cries for help that had reached them across the void. This was more than a mission. It was a call to arms, a test of their mettle against the dark tapestry of space that now enveloped them. As the Vanguard cloaked itself in the shadow of the embattled planet, the gravity of their mission pressed upon every soul aboard. Jackson gazed at the recon drone feeds flickering on the main display, each one a window to the chaos below. The planet's surface boiled with conflict, artillery fire blooming like deadly flowers in a field that knew no spring. The air inside the command deck was thick with a blend of resolve and tension. "Give me options," Jackson commanded, his voice slicing through the heavy atmosphere like a blade. His crew, seasoned yet visibly taxed by the gravity of their impending engagement, exchanged quick, determined glances. "We could attempt a frontal assault on the aggressor's main encampment," suggested Lieutenant Harrow, his words careful, measured. "But the collateral damage would be significant." Jackson considered this, his fingertips grazing the cold, smooth surface of the navigation console. "And the innocents?" he asked, his voice barely louder than a whisper but heavy with authority. "We have small strike teams ready, Commander," chimed in Sergeant Lutz from the armament station. "They can infiltrate, minimize civilian casualties, and disrupt enemy operations from within." Jackson nodded, the idea resonating within him like a struck chord. "Prepare the teams. I want precision and stealth. Use the chaos to our advantage." In the belly of the ship, the strike teams readied themselves. The clank of gear and the soft rustle of uniforms moving against each other filled the cramped space. Each member was a shadow, their movements fluid, a stark contrast to the harsh, unyielding metal that encased them. Back on the bridge, Harrow's hands moved deftly across the tactical display, plotting courses and maneuvers that danced like fireflies in the night. "Deployment in T-5, he announced, his voice a steady beacon in the tumult. Jackson's eyes were like steel as he watched the planet grow larger on the screen. The taste of metallic air lingered on his tongue, a constant reminder of the artificial lifeblood flowing through the Vanguard's veins. The scent of coffee, bitter and strong, wafted from the crew's mess, mingling oddly with the sterile cleanliness that pervaded the ship. As the strike teams disembarked in the low hum of the dropships, silence reclaimed the command deck. Jackson felt the tension coalesce into a tangible thread, stretched taut by the gravity of their actions. It was a delicate dance on the razor's edge between duty and disaster. Contact in 3, 2, 1. Harrow counted down, his voice breaking the silence as the first images from the strike team's helmet cams streamed in. The visuals were shaky, intermittent bursts of light and shadow, painting a stark, gritty picture of the ground reality. Jaxon leaned forward, his senses sharpened, his mind racing. The sounds of distant explosions breached the ship's insulated walls, a reminder that war, while ugly and brutal, was also deeply sensory. It tasted of fear, sounded like loss, and smelled of inevitability. "Keep me updated, Harrow," Jaxon ordered, his gaze never wavering from the screen. "Every move they make, I want to know. We're not just here to fight. We're here to protect." As the first reports of engagement came through, Jackson's resolve hardened. This was more than a military operation. It was a testament to their creed. In the vast, echoing void, they were not just voyagers but guardians, keepers of peace in a universe that offered little. In the dim light of the planet's early dawn, the strike teams moved through the rugged terrain, their boots sinking softly into the alien soil, moist from the night's condensation. Each breath they took was heavy with the earthy aroma of an alien world, mixed with the sharp sting of ionized air from recent artillery strikes. Commander Jaxon Hale watched the operation unfold from the Vanguard, the ship now orbiting silently above the conflict zone. His eyes traced the paths of his teams through the holographic terrain displayed before him. Every pulse of light on the map was a heartbeat, every static-laced report a breath drawn in anticipation. "Targets approaching the first checkpoint," Sergeant Lutz's voice crackled over the comms, the words cutting cleanly through the tense atmosphere of the command deck. "Confirm engagement rules," Jaxon responded, his voice firm, ensuring his command resonated with the gravity of their endeavor. "Engage only if engaged. Priority is to disarm and disable," came the immediate reply, the protocol clear and practiced. On the ground, the first rays of the sun painted the world in hues of crimson and gold, casting long shadows that danced alongside the soldiers as they advanced. The light flickered through the leaves of bizarre, twisted vegetation, casting eerie patterns on the ground that seemed to pulse with unseen life. The soldiers' senses were heightened to a razor's edge. The taste of their own sweat mingled with the bitterness of adrenaline on their tongues. Their ears caught the slightest rustle, the faintest whisper of movement from the enemy lines hidden just out of sight. Suddenly, a sharp report shattered the morning calm. A warning shot fired into the sky, not aimed to kill, but to challenge. The soldiers halted, crouching low, their bodies tensing as they scanned the horizon. Back on the Vanguard, Jaxon felt every second stretch into eternity. He could almost smell the tension, a mix of fear and resolve that surely permeated the air around his soldiers. The scent of freshly brewed coffee from the mess hall seemed a stark, almost absurd contrast to the starkness of the moment. "Sit, Rep," he demanded, his voice a low growl that belied his controlled exterior. "Stand off at checkpoint 1. They've seen us but are holding fire. Looks like they're waiting for something, or someone," Lutz reported, his voice steady but tinged with the stress of uncertainty. "Understood. Keep me posted. No rash moves," Jaxon instructed, turning to gaze out the bridge's viewport at the distant planet below. The world seemed peaceful from up here, its beauty a stark contradiction to the violence erupting on its surface. In those moments, Jaxon felt the dual weight of command and conscience, a burden that tasted of bitter iron and felt heavier with each passing second. He knew that each decision he made rippled across lives and destinies, intertwining his soul with the soldiers and the innocents whose world they had invaded. As he stood watching, waiting, Jaxon realized this mission would leave scars not visible to the eye, but forever felt in the heart. The war below was not just a clash of arms, but a clash of wills, where the struggle was not only for territory, but for the spirit of all involved. The Vanguard was not just a ship in orbit. It was a silent guardian, a watcher of fates, hovering on the brink of decisions whose consequences were yet to unfold. As dawn broke over the alien landscape, The first real engagement unfolded, stark and sudden. From his vantage point aboard the Vanguard, Commander Jaxon Hale watched as the strike teams made their first calculated move against the enemy. The operation, meticulously planned, yet chaotic in its nature, seemed almost surreal in its intensity. The crisp morning air on the planet was disrupted by a series of low booms as non-lethal stun devices deployed by the strike teams burst among the enemy lines. The concussions were not designed to kill, but to disorient, spreading confusion like wildfire through dry grass. On the ground, the earth vibrated underfoot, sending tremors through the boots of Jackson's soldiers. The taste of dust kicked up by their movements mingled with the acrid bite of discharged energy, filling their mouths with the tang of battle. Lieutenant Harrow monitored the operation's progress with bated breath, his gaze flickering over the data streaming in. "Initial stun phase successful, Commander. Teams are advancing to positions Bravo and Charlie," he reported, his voice a tight coil of professionalism and quiet urgency. "Keep the pressure, but watch for civilians." "I want minimal casualties," Jaxon replied, his eyes never leaving the tactical display. The tension on the bridge was palpable, each officer acutely aware of the delicate balance between aggression and restraint. Below, the soldiers moved through the alien foliage, the strange, sharp-edged leaves brushing against their armor with soft, whispering hisses. The scent of alien flora, sweet yet somehow metallic, filled their nostrils, adding an otherworldly quality to their already surreal surroundings. Suddenly, a sharp cry cut through the relative calm, a signal from one of the forward scouts. The image on Jackson's screen switched to a first-person view from the scout's helmet cam. The feed was shaky, the visuals blurred as the scout moved rapidly, but then it steadied, revealing a scene that caused Jackson's heart to skip a beat. In a clearing ahead, guarded by a few disoriented enemy combatants, stood what appeared to be an alien structure, its architecture bizarre, yet unmistakably deliberate. It was unlike any military installation or weapon cache. Its purpose was unclear, shrouded in mystery, compelling in its enigmatic presence. "What is that?" Harrow murmured, leaning closer to the screen. "No idea, but it's not what we were briefed on," Jaxon muttered, his mind racing with possibilities. Was it a communication hub, a cultural artifact, or something more sinister? "Secure the area, but approach with caution. I want a full scan of that structure." "No engagement without my direct order," Jaxon commanded, his voice carrying the weight of his command across the void to the team on the surface. As the team acknowledged and moved to comply, Jaxon felt the familiar thrill of the unknown twine with apprehension. What secrets did that structure hold? Could this be the reason behind the enemy's fierce resistance on this seemingly inconsequential world? The Vanguard continued to hover silently above, a silent sentinel in the cold expanse of space, watching as its crew delved deeper into the mystery. Jaxon knew they were on the cusp of a discovery, one that could shift the tides of their mission in unforeseen ways. What lay within that alien construct could define the next steps not only of the conflict, but perhaps of the broader understanding of this volatile region of space. As the strike team encircled the mysterious alien structure, the air vibrated with an unspoken tension, palpable and sharp. The building itself loomed like a silent sentinel, its surfaces smooth and iridescent under the planet's twin suns. The light fractured against its edges, casting prism-like reflections that danced on the soldiers' visors, adding a surreal quality to the already charged atmosphere. Commander Jaxon Hale monitored every movement from the Vanguard, his eyes fixed on the live feed streaming from the ground. The structure's purpose remained an enigma, wrapped in the visual cacophony of alien architecture that neither invited nor welcomed them. "Status?" Jackson's voice cut through the bridge's concentrated silence, each word a drop in the still waters of focused anticipation. "Perimeter secured, no sign of hostile activity. But, sir, there's something about this structure. It's not just dormant, it feels like it's waiting," reported Sergeant Lutz, his voice tinged with a mix of awe and unease. "Waiting?" "Elaborate," Jaxon demanded, his tone sharpening. "It's hard to explain, Commander. There's a resonance, almost imperceptible, It's not something we're hearing through our ears. It's more like it's in our bones. Lutz struggled to convey the sensation, a testament to the alien nature of their discovery. Intrigued and cautious, Jaxon ordered, "Initiate a full spectral analysis. I want to know what we're dealing with before we make any further moves." On the surface, the team deployed their equipment, sending waves of subsonic pulses that echoed silently through the structure. The feedback appeared on Jackson's screen, lines and waves mapping an internal structure complex and unfathomable, revealing chambers and hallways that spiraled into the unknown. The air around the structure was thick with the scent of ozone, a byproduct of the energy fields the team used to probe the alien construct. The ground beneath their feet thrummed softly, the vibrations more felt than heard, adding a visceral depth to the already tense exploration. "Something's activating," shouted Corporal Dane, his voice laced with a mix of excitement and fear. The ground's vibration grew stronger, a rhythm that synced with the pulsing energy from within the structure. Jaxon watched as the structure's surface began to shift, sections of the outer walls moving with mechanical fluidity, revealing openings that exhaled a rush of air, rich with the must of ages and the sharp tang of alien minerals. The scent was both ancient and alien, filling the soldiers' lungs with the heavy burden of undiscovered secrets. "Everyone, fall back to defensive positions. Do not engage unless engaged upon," Jaxon ordered, his voice a calm amidst the storm of sensory overload and rising apprehension. As the soldiers complied, moving back with disciplined precision, the structure continued to unfold, revealing itself not merely as a building but as something more akin to a device, its purpose still shrouded in mystery. From the command deck of the Vanguard, Jaxon felt a chill trace the spine of his resolve. What had they awakened on this forsaken planet? The mystery of the structure was deepening, pulling them into a narrative woven with threads of ancient alien lore and the imminent threat of the unknown. As the first hints of alien technology began to whir to life within the structure, the team braced themselves. They were no longer just invaders or rescuers. They were witnesses to the awakening of a relic whose secrets were as vast as the universe itself. Inside the central chamber, the crystalline column's pulse grew more intense, casting radiant beams across the mosaic of cryptic symbols. The air was thick with a mix of earthy and metallic scents as the team cautiously circled the structure, their shadows elongating and contracting with the pulsating light. Sergeant Lutz, his features set in concentration, lifted his scanner, attempting to decode the frequencies emitted by the column. "It's like it's broadcasting, but to whom or what, I can't tell," he murmured, the device in his hand whirring softly as it worked to pierce the alien enigma. "Keep the data coming, Sergeant," Commander Jaxon Hale instructed through the comm link, his voice a steady command over the soft echo of their footsteps on the stone floor. The ground beneath their feet felt alive, almost responsive to their movements, as if each step was monitored by the ancient construct. Corporal Dean, positioned near the entrance, kept a vigilant watch. His senses were on high alert, the taste of adrenaline sharp on his tongue as he scanned the dark corridors that branched off from the main chamber. His light swept over the walls, the beams scattering as they hit the rough gem-like surfaces, creating a cascade of fleeting, colorful shadows. Lieutenant Harrow, back on the Vanguard, coordinated with the xenolinguistics team, his voice a conduit for the growing anticipation. "Any breakthroughs on those symbols?" he asked, tapping his console lightly, his gaze fixed on the screens displaying the intricate patterns being fed back from the surface. "We're getting there, Lieutenant. It appears to be a form of communication, deeply symbolic, possibly even ritualistic," came the linguist's reply, filled with a restrained excitement. "This might be a nexus point, a place of significant cultural or scientific exchange for the original inhabitants." Back in the chamber, a sudden shift in the atmosphere made everyone pause. The air cooled rapidly, the change so sudden it left a thin layer of frost on their equipment. The column's light shifted from a warm amber to a chilling sapphire, casting an ethereal glow that seemed to deepen the shadows into something almost sentient. "Did everyone feel that?" Jackson's voice broke the silence, each word pronounced clearly to ensure no nuance was missed. "Yes, sir," came the unified response from the team, their voices a mix of wariness and awe. As they continued their investigation, the ground vibrated gently, a subtle reminder of the power hidden within the alien bedrock. Suddenly the column's light converged to a single point before exploding outward in a brilliant flash, revealing a hidden doorway that had blended seamlessly with the chamber's wall. "This structure isn't just ancient, it's sophisticated beyond our understanding," Jaxon observed, stepping closer to the newly revealed passage. "Proceed with caution, team. We're not just uncovering history here, we're stepping right into it." The passage beyond the doorway was narrow, the air growing denser as they moved deeper into the uncharted corridor. The walls here were smooth, almost glass-like in their finish, reflecting their torch beams back at them with an intensity that made navigation disorienting. As they progressed, the sounds of their movements were muffled, swallowed by the oppressive silence that enveloped them. The mystery of what lay ahead was palpable, pushing them forward with a mix of dread and curiosity. What secrets did this passage hold? And more importantly, what would they find at its end? The unknown beckoned, each step taking them deeper into the heart of the alien labyrinth. Deeper into the labyrinthine passageway, the team ventured. Their steps echoed in the hushed expanse, resonating against the smooth, glass-like walls that seemed to absorb and reflect their flashlight beams in equal measure. The air was cooler here, tinged with the scent of something ancient, as if opening the passage had stirred 1,000 years of dormant aromas, musty, yet charged with a hint of electrical sharpness that made their skin tingle. The path abruptly opened into a vast chamber, so expansive that their lights failed to find the far walls. The floor was covered in a fine, silty dust that swirled around their boots, leaving a trail of ghostly footprints behind them. Above, the ceiling arched into a dome, speckled with mineral deposits that twinkled like a starry sky, casting a dim, otherworldly glow over everything. "Look at this place," murmured Sergeant Lutz, his voice low and filled with wonder. His statement, though quiet, echoed off into the cavernous room, filling it with a life of its own. Jaxon paused, surveying the surroundings with a practiced eye. "Harrow, are you getting this?" he called into his comlink, ensuring the feedback to the Vanguard was clear and uninterrupted. "Every detail, Commander. It's incredible," Harrow replied, his voice crackling with static through the link, a reminder of the vast distance their signals had to travel. The center of the chamber held a raised platform, upon which sat an artifact unlike any they had encountered before. It was an orb, suspended in mid-air without any visible support, pulsating with a soft light that cycled through colors with hypnotic regularity. The light cast from the orb painted the chamber in a kaleidoscope of soft hues, touching each textured surface with shades of dusk and dawn. "Be cautious, team. We don't know what triggered the opening of this chamber or the purpose of that artifact," Jaxon instructed, his gaze fixed on the floating sphere. As they approached the platform, a subtle vibration started under their feet, growing in intensity with each step closer. It wasn't just a physical sensation. The air around them seemed to hum with energy, a silent song that resonated deep within their chests. Corporal Dine, tasked with environmental monitoring, noted a sudden drop in temperature. "There's a thermal anomaly here," he reported, his scanner displaying a drastic contrast between the warmth of their bodies and the icy chill surrounding the orb. Suddenly the orb's pulsing ceased, plunging the chamber into a momentary darkness before it emitted a blinding flash. When their vision cleared, the orb had changed color to a deep, resonant red and projected a holographic map of what appeared to be star systems, none of which were familiar to any of them. "The plot thickens," Jaxon murmured, entranced by the display. "This could be a star map, maybe even a navigation tool. But why show it to us?" Their fascination was cut short when the ground began to tremble, a low rumble that quickly escalated into a roar. Dust cascaded from the ceiling as the chamber shook, a stark reminder of the planet's instability. "This place isn't just a vault. It's active," Jaxon concluded, steadying himself against the tremor. "We need to secure as much data as possible and prepare for immediate extraction." As the team hurriedly documented the star map and the peculiarities of the orb, The chamber's tremors intensified, hinting at hidden mechanisms long dormant, now stirring to life. The mystery of the alien structure deepened, promising revelations and dangers in equal measure, urging them to delve further into its secrets while cautioning them of the risks. The tremors within the ancient chamber grew more violent, sending a cascade of fine dust down from the ceiling, like a winter flurry disturbed by a forceful gale. The team, their nerves frayed by the intensifying quake, hurried their efforts to capture every detail of the holographic star map before them. Each star and planet depicted in the hovering display was meticulously recorded, their unfamiliar configurations hinting at uncharted territories or forgotten paths through the cosmos. "Commander, we've got what we can. It's time to move!" Sergeant Lutz shouted over the roar of the trembling ground. His voice, usually steady, cracked with urgency as another shiver ran through the stone underfoot. Commander Jaxon Hale nodded sharply, signaling the retreat. "Everyone back to the entrance! Double time!" he commanded. The urgency of his tone spurred the team into rapid motion, their equipment clattering against their armor as they navigated back through the sinuous corridors of the structure. As they retraced their steps, the cool air of the underground labyrinth whipped around them, carrying the earthy scent of disturbed soil mixed with the acrid tang of ionization, a byproduct of the energy orb they had left behind. The ground vibrated beneath their feet, an ominous drum roll that seemed to keep pace with their hurried steps. Emerging from the structure's mouth, the outside world seemed almost tranquil in contrast. The twin suns of the planet hung low on the horizon, casting long, eerie shadows across the rocky landscape. But the peace was deceptive. The ground here, too, began to tremble, a subtle reminder that the planet itself was reacting, perhaps in concert with the awakened mechanisms of the alien edifice. Back aboard the Vanguard, Lieutenant Harrow monitored the team's progress with bated breath, his fingers poised above the console, ready to initiate extraction. "Extraction point is set. Just give the word, Commander," he relayed, his voice a calm in the storm, despite the crackling static that threatened to drown him out. "Received, Harrow. We're on our way out," Jaxon responded, his voice steady despite the chaos. As they reached the surface, he couldn't help but glance back at the structure. It stood there, silent now, its secrets partially unveiled, yet still jealously guarded. The journey back to the rendezvous point was tense, the team's senses heightened to every sound, every shift in the air. The smell of ozone grew stronger, a clear sign that the energy levels within the planet were reaching a critical point. "Commander, seismic readings are off the charts. Whatever you woke up down there, it's not settling back down." Harrow's voice came through the comm link, each word underscored by a note of concern. "Understood. Keep the channel open. We're almost clear," Jaxon replied, pushing his team forward, their boots crunching on the gravelly terrain, each step echoing like a countdown. As they boarded the Vanguard, the ground gave one last violent shudder, a farewell from the depths. The ship's engines roared to life, a deep, throaty growl that filled the air, drowning out the planet's unrest. Safely aboard, the team shed their gear, their faces etched with fatigue and the residue of adrenaline. Jaxon watched them, his mind already turning over the data they had gathered. The mysteries of the alien structure were deep, its revelations profound, and its dangers real. What lay ahead was uncertain, but one thing was clear. They had opened a door that could not be closed, and the path forward would be fraught with as much peril as promise. As the Vanguard pulled away from the planet's turbulent surface, the tension among the crew slowly ebbed, replaced by an electric current of curiosity and the thrill of their unearthed discoveries. Commander Jaxon Hale watched the planet recede on the main display, its secrets now marginally less inscrutable, but more provocative than ever. "Start compiling all the data," Jaxon directed Lieutenant Harrow, who nodded, his fingers already dancing across the control panel, collating volumes of readings and holographic images captured during their expedition. The soft clicks of the keyboard punctuated the quiet hum of the ship's operational systems. In the analysis lab, the air was thick with the smell of heated circuits and sterile equipment as the science team began the intricate process of deciphering the star map. Each symbol, each pulsing line on the map, potentially pointed to new star systems, perhaps even gateways to further alien interactions. "Commander, you should see this," called out Dr. Eli Voss, the lead astrophysicist, gesturing Jaxon over with a barely contained excitement that seemed to sparkle in his eyes. As Jaxon approached, the large screen displayed a dynamic simulation of the star map, now fully integrated with the Vanguard's astrogation database. "We've cross-referenced the map with known charts. These coordinates," Dr. Voss pointed to a cluster of stars that shimmered brightly on the screen, "don't match any known formations. We're looking at uncharted space, or perhaps a star system that's been deliberately obscured or removed from our databases." The revelation hung in the air, heavy with implications. Jackson's gaze hardened thoughtfully as he absorbed the potential of their find. "Prepare a recon drone. We'll send it to those coordinates. If there's something out there meant to stay hidden, we need eyes on it." Meanwhile, in the crew's mess, the atmosphere buzzed with low conversations peppered with excitement and speculative theories. The bitter aroma of strong coffee, mixed with the tangy sweetness of synthetic fruit, being consumed by the crew as they discussed their next potential adventure. "We're really going after a ghost star?" one of the younger engineers asked, his voice a blend of disbelief and eagerness. "It looks that way," replied Sergeant Lutz, who had joined the group, his tone equal parts weary and animated. "And if there's one thing we've learned, it's that the universe has an odd sense of humor. We might just find something incredible or incredibly dangerous." Back on the bridge, Jaxon conferred with Harrow and the navigation team, their discussion focused and fraught with technical jargon as they plotted a course toward the mysterious coordinates. The vastness of space on the navigation screen seemed to pulse with a deeper mystery, their route a thin line into the unknown. As the Vanguard glided through the void, the soft vibration of the ship's engines provided a soothing backdrop to the anticipatory silence that had settled over the crew. The metallic taste of the recycled air mingled with a hint of ozone from the ship's shields, a constant reminder of the fragile boundary between them and the cosmic expanse. Each star that slid past their view felt like a silent observer, watching as they ventured deeper into the uncharted. With the coordinates set and the drone ready to deploy, the Vanguard was not just crossing physical distances, but also piercing veils of obscurity, pushing against the very fabric of their known universe. The crew stood on the brink of discovery, poised between the familiar light of explored stars and the shadowy depths of cosmic secrets yet to be revealed. The Vanguard surged silently through the void, its destination a set of coordinates that defied existing star maps and challenged the limits of known space. Commander Jaxon Hale stood before the main view screen, his eyes locked on the infinite black, speckled with distant suns and nebulae that painted the cosmos with swaths of nebulous light. "Status report," Jaxon called out, his voice calm but carrying the weight of anticipation that filled the bridge. "Drone is prepped and ready for launch, Commander," Lieutenant Harrow responded from his station. His hands moved with practiced ease over the controls, setting the final trajectory that would send their unmanned scout into the depths of the unknown system. "Launch on my mark." "Now," Jaxon ordered. A soft thud resonated through the ship's hull as the drone detached and propelled itself forward, its mission to gather preliminary data on the mysterious star system. The crew gathered around the screens to watch the drone's progress, the bridge bathed in the soft glow of monitors, the silence punctuated by the occasional soft beep of equipment, and the gentle murmur of hushed conversations. The air was tinged with a faint scent of coolant from the ship's life support systems, mixing subtly with the coffee brewed to keep the night crew alert. "Visual feed in T-20 seconds, Harrow announced, adjusting the frequency to clear the incoming data transmission. The anticipation was palpable, each crew member's gaze fixed on the screens, their breaths held as they awaited their first glimpse of this uncharted territory. The feed flickered to life, revealing a system dominated by a dark, seemingly dormant star surrounded by a debris field that glittered under the drone's lights, casting eerie shadows across the vast emptiness. "Look at that formation," Dr. Eli Voss pointed out, his finger tracing the arc of a particularly dense cluster of debris. "That's not natural. It's too structured, almost like a defensive barrier." Jaxon nodded, absorbing every detail. Thoughts on navigating that field? We'll need precise maneuvering to get through unscathed. I suggest deploying a secondary wave of micro-drones to map out a safe route, Harrow suggested, already working on the logistics. Make it so. I want options on the table within the hour, Jaxon directed, his decision-making swift, the strategy forming with clear, realistic steps that accounted for their limited knowledge of the region. As the planning continued, the bridge's atmosphere shifted from watchful waiting to active engagement. Each officer contributed to the unfolding strategy, their expertise merging into a cohesive plan that promised not only to probe the secrets of the Ghost Star but also to ensure the crew's safety in the potentially hostile environment. Engage the spectral analyzers. I want to know what we're dealing with, Jaxon instructed Dr. Voss, who nodded and turned to his instruments, the soft clattering of his keyboard a testament to their ongoing quest for knowledge. Meanwhile, the crew's mess buzzed with low-level chatter, the staff off-duty exchanging wild theories about their destination. The smell of freshly synthesized meals mingled with the ever-present metallic tang of the ship's interior, grounding them in the reality of their journey. As the hours passed, Harrow presented the mapped routes on the main display, each potential path highlighted against the backdrop of the dense debris field. Best options for minimal risk, he declared, pointing to the least obstructed corridors through the cosmic rubble. Set course using the second path from the left. Keep shields at maximum, and all eyes on that field, Jaxon decided, his command clear and decisive. With the course set, the Vanguard edged closer to the mysterious star, its approach cautious but determined. The promise of uncovering celestial secrets propelled them forward, each crew member aware that they were on the brink of a discovery that could redefine their understanding of the universe. As the Vanguard cautiously navigated the mapped route through the dense debris field surrounding the Ghost Star, the bridge crew maintained a vigilant watch. The soft glow of the navigation screens illuminated their concentrated faces, each officer attuned to their specific tasks, ensuring the ship's safe passage. Maintain current speed and adjust the yaw by 0.03 degrees, Commander Jaxon Hale instructed, his voice steady, commanding the bridge with a calm authority. The ship responded with a slight shudder as it realigned, the stars outside the viewport shifting minutely as they passed. The debris field was a ballet of silent chaos, each fragment a dancer in the cosmic ballet choreographed by ancient gravitational forces. The crew could feel the ship vibrate softly under their feet, a constant reminder of the obstacles they faced, each one potentially catastrophic. Lieutenant Harrow monitored the deflector shield's output, his eyes scanning the readouts that flickered with each impact against the ship's protective barrier. Shields holding at 75% efficiency. We're picking up more metallic debris on this path, increasing power to forward deflectors, he reported, adjusting the settings with precise movements. The smell of ozone briefly permeated the bridge, a byproduct of the high-energy particles from the debris field interacting with the ship's shields. It mixed subtly with the recycled air, a tangy reminder of the invisible dangers they navigated. "Visual on the star ahead," called out Corporal Dean from the observation deck. His voice carried a mix of awe and trepidation as the Ghost Star, a dark sphere absorbing more light than it emitted, grew larger in their view. Its presence was an enigma, veiled in the cosmic dust and debris, like a shadow lurking in the depths of space. Prepare to launch the secondary wave of drones for closer inspection of the star's surface. I want detailed scans. Anything out of the ordinary? I want to know about it immediately, Jaxon ordered, turning to face the main display which now showed the star in increasing detail. The drone deployment was smooth, the smaller machines detaching from the Vanguard and darting forward into the darkness, their mission to unravel the mysteries of the Ghost Star. On the screen, their progress was marked by faint trails of light as they transmitted data back to the ship. As the drones approached the star, an unexpected pattern began to emerge in the data. "Commander, we're detecting an irregular magnetic field emanating from the star. It's not stable, but it's rhythmic, almost pulsing," Dr. Eli Voss reported, his voice tinged with excitement and confusion. Jaxon leaned closer, observing the patterns. Could it be a communication signal, or perhaps a natural phenomenon? "Possibly both or neither," Doctor. Voss mused, his eyes not leaving the data streams flowing across his screen. We'll need more time to analyze the sequences. The bridge was silent for a moment, each member of the crew absorbed in their tasks, the tension palpable but controlled. Outside, the debris field thinned as they approached the ghost star, revealing its full, haunting magnitude, a dark jewel in the vastness of space, its secrets guarded by the remnants of celestial destruction. Keep me updated on those analyses, Doctor. Everyone else stay sharp, Jaxon concluded, his directive clear. As the Vanguard continued its cautious approach, the crew remained alert, poised on the edge of discovery, each aware that the answers they sought might rewrite their understanding of the cosmos. As the Vanguard approached the enigmatic ghost star, the magnetic pulses intensified, each beat syncing with the ship's own heart, a mechanical echo resonating through the steel and sinew of its construction. The crew watched in rapt attention as the data from the drones began to coalesce into a coherent narrative, revealing the star not merely as a celestial body, but as a beacon, a call to the cosmos. "Commander, we've cracked the sequence," Dr. Eli Voss announced, his voice slicing through the tense silence on the bridge. "It's a message repeated over cycles. It's not just random, it's deliberate." Jaxon Hale stood firm, his gaze locked on the visual feed displaying the dark star pulsating with a somber light. "Let's hear it," he commanded, his tone resonant with the weight of their discovery. The audio was filtered through the ship's systems, a deep, resonating series of tones that translated into a language they could understand. "To those who find this message," the voice began, ancient and awe-inspiring, "know that you are not alone across the great expanse." The words echoed around the bridge, each syllable a profound testament to the star's true purpose. The crew stood silent, struck by the gravity of the message that had traversed the void of space and time to reach them. "This star was once home to us," the message continued, "a beacon for those who journey through the stars. In your quest for understanding, remember this: unity in diversity, strength in unity." Jaxon turned to his crew, their faces illuminated by the glow of the screens, a tapestry of humanity united by a common purpose. "This is why we explore," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "To find these connections, to discover that across this immense universe, the themes of hope and unity recur." Lieutenant Harrow stepped forward, his expression one of dawning realization. "It's not just a beacon. It's a lighthouse, Commander. A guidepost for all who navigate the dark." "Exactly," Jaxon affirmed, nodding slowly. "And now we carry that torch. This isn't the end of our journey, but a new beginning, a call to carry forward the message of those who once lived here." The Vanguard held its position near the star, the bridge quiet, but for the soft whir of the ship functioning around them. The crew was contemplative, each member processing the monumental discovery and its implications. "Prepare to broadcast our findings," Jaxon instructed. "Let's answer this call with our own message of peace and exploration. It's time the rest of humanity learned of what lies out here." As the broadcast equipment was primed, Jaxon took a moment to look out at the vast universe, the stars no longer distant points of light, but potential homes of past or future civilizations. "To those who find this message, from the crew of the Vanguard," he began, his voice steady and sure, "know this. In our heart of hearts, in the fabric of our being, we are united, across galaxies, across the universe. Humanity reaches out, and today, we've touched something wonderful." The message went out, a ripple across the cosmic ocean, as the Vanguard stood sentinel by the ghost star, a newly minted beacon in the age-old narrative of the stars. The crew, a microcosm of Earth's diversity, stood together, humanity's representatives at the edge of the unknown, their mission a resounding affirmation of their title and the indomitable spirit of exploration. The Vanguard's message, a declaration of hope and unity, drifted through the cosmos, its signal spreading far beyond the ghost star, out into the uncharted expanses where it might one day reach other explorers or civilizations. On the bridge, Commander Jaxon Hale watched as the last echoes of their transmission dispersed into the silence of space. a profound sense of accomplishment mingling with an anticipatory quiet about what might come next. "Commander, all systems are green. We've done what we came to do," Lieutenant Harrow reported, his voice imbued with a mixture of pride and reverence for the magnitude of their mission. Jaxon nodded, turning to face his crew, who were gathered around, their faces illuminated by the soft light of the control panels. "This mission has shown us that the universe is not only vaster and more mysterious than we imagined, but also more connected. We've not only discovered a new star system, but also a legacy, a call across time and space that reminds us we are part of a larger cosmos." His gaze swept over the crew, each member from different backgrounds, different cultures, united under the common banner of exploration and discovery. "We've answered a call that was sent out long before our time, and now we extend that call, hoping it will be heard by others as a testament to our resolve and our unity." Sergeant Lutz stepped forward, his normally stern demeanor softened by the moment's gravity. "Sir, it's been an honor to serve on this mission. What we've started here, it's bigger than any of us." Jaxon smiled, clapping Lutz on the shoulder. "The honor is shared, Sergeant. Each of you played a crucial part. Together we've turned what was once a silent beacon into a loudspeaker for humanity's message to the universe." As the Vanguard prepared to depart from the Ghost Star system, the crew took a moment to observe the star, now a familiar point of light among countless others in the sky. It no longer seemed a remote or alien thing, but a marker on their map, a signpost on their journey into the great unknown. Dr. Eli Voss, who had spent countless hours translating and understanding the alien message, looked up from his instruments. "Who knows, Commander? Maybe one day another explorer will find our message, just as we found this one. And maybe that will lead them here to see that humanity has indeed reached out with open hands." "Yes, Doctor, and let's hope they too will reach back," Jaxon replied, his voice resonant with hope. The Vanguard began its journey back to Earth, leaving the Ghost Star behind but carrying forward its message. As the ship receded, the star seemed to pulse once more, a final farewell, or perhaps an acknowledgement of the bond that had been formed. In the silence of the bridge, as the stars passed by in a blur of light, Jaxon felt a deep, unshakable conviction that their journey was far from over. "Let this be a reminder to us all," he said, his voice echoing slightly in the quiet, "that in the vastness of space, we are never truly alone. We are part of something greater, an infinite tapestry where every thread is intertwined." The crew stood in reflective silence, contemplating the vast reaches they had touched and the infinite possibilities that lay ahead. As the Vanguard sailed homeward through the stars, it carried not just the crew or their findings, but a timeless message of unity and exploration, a beacon for all of humanity.